I'm okay with the torture. I'm okay with the murder. Where I draw the line, homophobia. We are a progressive Italian mob family.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Snug Bug Club. We have with us today American Sneakers and Fluffy Fuzz, which is very odd to say. Why are you saying bye in the chat, Mick? Introduce yourselves, guys.
Okay.
Oh.
Hi, I'm Fluffy Fuzz. I play Happy on NoPixel. I don't know what else. I'm a person.
I mean,
You're a person.
You're a person.
Okay, then I guess it's my turn.
Yeah.
I'm Mel. I play Veronica Westfield on NoPixel. I also have a couple characters on Ignite. Francine DiMarino, who is probably about to be a very fired cop because I have not played her since the shakeup.
Oh no.
And Michelle Vetrano, who is in the medical services. Haven't chosen a department yet, but she got hired before I went on vacation. She is canonically Veronica's aunt. So
Ooh. Spicy.
And Fran also has a connection to Veronica's past, but
it's so tempting to give people connections to your NoPixel characters' pasts.
Well, I just think it just fleshes things out a little bit because Ignite is set in the 80s, which is far enough back that these are people that like your character could know.
It's very tempting.
Which is why I did it the way that I did, because if I do get more into Ignite, then I can build up this story even more.
Yeah.
And that's my big thing is, even when I used to write fanfic, I loved making connections between two fics that would be seemingly completely unrelated.
Ooh.
Yeah, and you already have all this stuff built up. So like trying to keep two massive backstory complicated things in your head is hard.
That's true.
It's that, and I think it just builds a rich story.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Oh, you guys have already started answering questions. I haven't even gotten the introductions done yet. You're very excited.
I love talking about roleplay, so you know.
Oh yeah, we can talk for hours.
Yeah, we might. But it is time to unveil my new PNG tuber, which I've promised the chat for ages and ages, and now you will be able to see it. Can I get like a drum roll hype?
I don't have anything to drum on.
Here we are. There we go. This was done by the lovely Ponds Crossing on Twitter. I almost said twatter there. Yeah, so if you go to twitter.com/pondscrossing, I will throw a link in the chat. They did a wonderful job.
It's so good.
It is so adorable. It was worth all of the wait. And I am so excited to finally be using it. It exceeded all of my expectations.
Hell yeah.
And it's got several different emotes I can use, but I will save those for the appropriate time to show you. Now, we also have the long-awaited crochet cam. So, you can finally see me crocheting in live action while I ask people questions.
Yay!
Mesmerized. Something to do while listening to us talk. Alright. Streamer has hands. I do.
Wow.
It's a wonder. Alright. So, first question is a very obvious one. You know, what am I crocheting right now? Oh, yeah, I should. I'm going to be crocheting a Johanna, actually. I'm going to be making a little plush Johanna. You guys are going to be very excited to see it when it's done. I need to make sure to get the angle on this crochet cam right. It can be a little awkward, but we'll figure it out. So, first question. So tell me a bit about your characters. Give the stream something to think about. Remind them who you are. Fluffy, you go
Okay.
first.
I go first? Okay, great.
Yep.
About my character. My character, well,
Happy.
yeah, he's happy. But so I'm trying to figure out what. Well, I guess I'll just explain what he is.
Okay.
Yeah, he has some form of DID or otherwise specified personality disorder, or some personality disorder that I did not research at all and just kind of made however I felt like it.
We didn't research at all.
No, so that's why I always say something like, because I just made it how I felt like making it and didn't try to make it like actually conform to how these things actually work. But he has these different personalities based on emotion, so happy, sad, angry, and serious. And
Sad, my favorite.
I don't know why. He's just depressed dude.
Listen, I just there's some people you just want to wrap in a hug and just be very nice to. It's like that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so he's an EMS paramedic. He likes trying to help everybody, wants everyone to have a good time, except when he's one of his other personalities.
Like yesterday.
Oh yeah, he almost murdered someone yesterday. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about my character.
I think you gave a pretty good introduction there. Mel, what about you?
How do I put this delicately? Veronica is a fucking broken mess.
Yeah, broken mess.
She came that way. The city didn't do that to her, surprisingly. But she has said in the past to people that she does have a personality disorder, but it's more than likely her PTSD that causes symptoms that are like BPD. Because she underwent a lot of trauma before ever moving to the city. In spite of that trauma, she went from being a forever trainee in EMS to now being a captain to now considering running crew chief. With the intention of being Kiki's deputy chief. That is the only reason why she would run for chief. That is the only reason why she would put that on herself, is with the intention of being Kiki's deputy.
I'd vote for you.
When she moved to the city, she got into a relationship like 2 months into living in the city with Josh Norris. And from the outside looking in, at least initially, people thought they were like this fantastic couple. They were a toxic mess. They were a toxic mess.
I never knew what happened there.
We can touch on that in a little bit, but they were a toxic mess. Then she got with Randy, who was never there, and now she's married to Harvey. After a brief hoark.
The poor hoark.
She learned her ex-wife is in the city, had a meltdown about that.
Oh man, I want to touch on that in a bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing with Veronica is not only is she recovering alcoholic and drug addict.
Recovering.
She has Addison's disease, which is made worse by all those things that I forgot. I don't think she ever told Johanna about that.
Oops.
Don't worry, I'm good at not licking meta into roleplay.
I'm just surprised that Johanna hasn't encountered Veronica having an Addison's episode. Because if her cortisol levels aren't right, it can make her quite the mess. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't encountered that either. I guess there's just some stuff I miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Probably
yeah,
due to the fact of me not being around nearly as much as you, D-Gens.
I am between jobs and have been for the last year, so I can degen.
Yeah.
I am not. I just only do this in my free time.
Oh, no other hobbies at all?
Nope. Not really. I mean, there's other stuff that I like doing, but I don't like it as much or
Yeah,
whatever.
roleplay can be addicting.
I really like it, but I'm trying to like be more healthy about it. Like I use pretty much all my free time for it, but I'm trying to not let it eat into other things.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what was so great about this vacation that I just had. Is it was like 3 days. Yeah, there were a couple times I got on the server for like 10 minutes because I needed to take screenshots or something, and I got curious about her texts and stuff. But it was mostly a disconnect from NoPixel for
Yeah.
3.5 days.
Barely any
Um,
time.
But it also was a good chunk of time, and
Yeah.
recently I've been trying to be better about limiting my time. Like there's days where I'll get on the server to check stuff and then I'll just hop off for a while.
Good.
The
But-
2 weeks where or the reset was an hour later for us was wonderful. Because I actually went to sleep at a
Yeah.
time when I should go to sleep instead of staying up till reset.
I've been like sometimes I'll be up until reset, sometimes I won't. But I've been trying to be better about it, trying to get on a schedule that is conducive to work because I would like to get a job sometime in
Yeah,
the near
that would be
future.
good.
And
I've always said
I'm-
that living a life in roleplay while tempting is never the best idea.
Towards the end of the last school year, because I do the teaching thing, my NoPixel habit got so bad that I was getting 2 to 3 hours of sleep. And I was like, hey, that is not good. So I had to rein it in. And it was because there was so much RP going on for
Yeah.
Veronica, and I just did not have the hours in the day to address it all. And it's especially hard when you're not a streamer. Because like I stream once in a while, like when I know that V has something big going on,
Yeah.
I try to stream. Like yesterday I streamed because, her coming home was gonna be a focal point. And I'm gonna be trying to stream like throughout the next week or two because the consequences of that trip are in full swing.
I should have streamed yesterday.
Yeah. You really should have. How did you not expect that Mother's Day would be bad?
I knew it was gonna be bad, but I don't know. Last Mother's Day, I just laid dead for 8 hours.
What?
Yeah,
Oh no.
it was great.
Oh god. Yeah, I'm always thinking people should stream more because I love to see their perspectives on things. It's a guilty pleasure of mine is just watching people's sides of events.
It's for me. Sometimes I stream because I know there's a couple people who want to know what was going on with Veronica during a certain situations.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay. And it's been interesting to see because like I don't really care about view count, but when I started on NoPixel, I would get 1 or 2 viewers. Sometimes out of nowhere, I'll shoot up to like 30 something, and I'm like, where did you all come from?
Probably from B.
More than likely from B, especially like if it's on a day that she's not streaming.
Yeah.
I see a dramatic increase. And I'm like, okay, hi.
Oh yeah.
I guess I'm
Definitely.
the keeper of you guys today.
Keeper of the bees.
While B is offline, which I think she's doing a subathon later this week. I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Which is why because she doesn't stream on Mondays, but she's streaming today.
I was surprised she wasn't around yesterday because I think she.
She was.
Yeah, she wasn't.
She just wasn't streaming.
Yesterday. Yeah.
She doesn't stream on Sundays. I think she's only around to do the Mother's Day stuff. But yeah, It's always interesting to see, like, oh, there's actually people here who want to see what's going on with Veronica.
Yeah.
And part of why I don't like streaming so much is because I have so much downtime with Veronica at times where I'm just sitting and vibing.
Yeah, that's when I started streaming a bit this year. That's kind of the mindset that I had. Was like, I'm just gonna act the same way I always do. I don't care about entertaining. I don't care about whatever. If I feel like sitting there staring at a wall for an hour and you want to watch me, go for it.
Yeah,
Like,
that's my
I'm not gonna change or try to entertain.
Yeah, that's the thing is I always feel bad because sometimes there's just dead silence because I'll forget that I'm streaming.
Yeah.
Because I only have one monitor set up right now because a year and a half later, still have not put my desk in my room and it's still down in the garage because I just have so much crap.
I feel the same way about streaming. I'm like, man, why are people watching me? I'm just doing absolutely nothing. But people tell me that they enjoy it. They like the vibes. And I feel like it's something I just have to learn to get over.
Well, no, you're
stop.
bobbing up and down a little bit, and your mouth is like opening and closing.
Yeah. Well. But yeah, I think that it's just something you have to learn to get over and kind of push through and realize that if people want to watch, they'll watch. It's all about it's about being comfortable, and it's something that was hard to do when I was first starting out streaming, which is probably 2.5 years ago, was learning to be comfortable with silence. It's something that's tough and something I still struggle with, but people are very kind and they understand and they want to be here.
Yeah, because that's the thing is I come from a background where silence on a stream isn't the norm. Because I come from, my introduction to Twitch was Rooster Teeth personalities. I've been a Twitch mod for Jeremy Dooley, formerly of Achievement Hunter, for the last 7 years. So, they can't afford to have silence and they have to be on go, 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 entertain me. And it's one of those interesting things with RP is if you're doing slow burn, there's not always going to be exciting moments, and sometimes you're just vibing. And you want to have that quiet moment because your character's having the quiet moment and you don't want to break that silence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
RP is a whole different beast in streaming.
Yeah, like yesterday, Happy was sad, and because it was Mother's Day. But like halfway through the day, I'd kind of gotten through all of the stuff that I had thought of to hit on him regarding all that. So it was like kind of, I don't know, just go along with things, and it really slowed down.
Yeah, like with Veronica yesterday, I didn't know what I was gonna get. Because she's dealing with the consequences of what happened over the weekend. And I had to tread a little carefully. Because, I was hoping she didn't pass out from hunger or anything. Because the last thing I needed was PD to show up to a scene where there's blood-soaked gauze, blood-soaked bandages, and all this stuff, and they think that a crime's been committed. I mean, technically speaking, a crime was committed, it just was not in the jurisdiction of Los Santos.
That would have been a bit complicated.
And so I was glad that things kind of unfolded like they did, with Logan being one of the ones to reach out to Veronica and then go alone to get her, because
God, I love Logan.
The other flip side of that would have been everybody showing up. I'm just bringing like Sad and Balto and Kiki and Charlotte, which Charlotte would be a really bad one to have brought.
I was really excited when I heard that you were coming back on Mother's Day, because I'm like, well, Happy would normally be someone that would be like immediately contacting you when you get back, but he's not going to be in the headspace for that.
Yeah.
So
But-
see how it
but-
goes.
What I liked was the dynamic with Sad and V, because you have V who is like going through her own shit, and she's just like, "Oh, honey."
Yeah.
She has a soft spot for Sad.
Everyone has a soft spot for Sad.
I don't know. I just try to be really sad and pathetic and depressed.
Well, it's people like pathetic people that they can help and hug and stuff. But also, it hurt Johanna so much yesterday to not be able to help really with that, because she's still dealing with the consequences of her actions with the whole kidnapping stuff. So she feels like she doesn't have a right to really help.
Yeah, which it's interesting. A lot of people do that. Like I think Ash did something similar the other day where she didn't really seek him out to help him because she felt like she didn't have the right to do that or something. And it's like you could have.
Yeah,
But
you could
yeah.
have, but I mean, it's more fun this way.
True.
It's also just been interesting to see how over the last 2 years the dynamics of the group have shifted and changed, because everyone's at a different point where
Yeah.
like Veronica is very much will pull back and let others come to her after things that have happened with Luna and Luna running away the last time she pushed too hard. So she tries not to push too much on people, which is both a good and a bad thing, because sometimes people need you to push.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's happened with Sad a number of times, of people like trying to give him space and him asking for space and him
Doesn't
really not needing space.
Yeah. That's always.
I think the most recent instance of Veronica kind of breaking that self-imposed thing is chasing after Kiki when she and Charlotte suspected Kiki was high. Because her only concern, she didn't mind that, like, she was like, okay, she wants to be alone. However, I have reason to suspect that she is on something right now, and she is just wandering through the heart of the city and is probably going to get hurt.
Yeah.
That was her primary concern. Because she understands wanting to be alone. There have been times she's wanted to be alone, but people won't let her have that because they're worried she's gonna do something stupid, and she probably will. But she also needs the room to be stupid.
That's so funny because it's so different from Johanna, who never wants to be alone but often feels alone. It's like a very interesting contrast. I find that my characters tend to thrive on connection with other people and not having kind of time to stew in their own thoughts, because that's when things go bad. I find it interesting that V does need time to think for herself and kind of be, have people be there, but not like hovering over her shoulder.
Well, the most recent instance of that was the day that Harvey confronted Charlotte. And it's a conversation Harvey and Charlotte absolutely need to have. But V was just done. She was done with being in the middle. So she, once everyone kind of left, she grabbed her bike, went up to Polito, bought a bunch of alcohol, and she called JB.
Recovering alcoholic, everyone.
JB didn't pick up. She also had realized that she would have been 1 year sober if she hadn't broken her sobriety in November when the terror resurfaced. So for her, it was just.
Wait, JB didn't pick up?
No.
Yeah, damn it, JB. He's become
he
a criminal.
Didn't pick up the first time she called because Viscose was AFK.
Oh,
think
the
getting
first
food.
time. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought that you'd been lying to Happy
No, no, no,
and that
no.
you hadn't actually hung out with him.
No, JB did eventually call her back, and she had already been drinking, and he went and she cried because she feels so lost sometimes because she knows that even if Charlotte doesn't always say it directly to her, she still says shit about Harvey. Likewise, Harvey just is at a loss of what to do from Veronica's perspective because anything he does is just inherently wrong, is how he sees it. Because he sees it as no matter what he does in regards to Charlotte, he's always going to be in the wrong. It's an interesting thing, and V is just tired of being in the middle of it. She's like, you guys don't have to be friends, but for the love of God, can you just stop interacting with each other? Just pretend the other doesn't exist, and we'll all be happy. End of story.
Yeah, but that
Thank
doesn't
you.
make for good
Don't steal my
angst and-
character.
But it does make for better RP that they, do interact and all that. But
Yeah.
V is just tired. And she had this whole conversation. She's just like, JV, I'm tired. I'm just tired
Oh.
of them always fighting. I need to stop before I actually start crying.
Yeah, don't make us still start crying, damn it.
Ah.
I've done that too many times where I get way too into things. Last time I did
Oh, I do that all the time.
Well, yeah, I can see why you would do that all the time with Sad.
Yeah.
I have to get into the like emotions and mindset of the character, and that's partly why I don't like playing the non-happy ones too much or too long, because it gets to me.
Yeah, I'm sure the
like
5150 was tough then.
that was like basically 2 weeks of Sad. And it was like fulfilling, and it was something that really needed to happen for his story. But I was exhausted by the end of it.
Yeah.
And just like needed to stop. Like the end of the 5150 was basically me emailing Pixie, just like, can we just like get this done?
Yeah. That was actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you was about the 5150. I know I had
Okay.
messaged you, you know, before I did Johanna's whole manic arc, I messaged you being like, how did you get up the courage to do Happy's 5150 arc? Because I was feeling like, oh man, this could have dire consequences if, things go like totally in the wrong direction. And
Yeah.
so basically, how did you deal with that kind of fear of like, what if Happy got fired, or what if he, ruined things completely?
I just kept saying to myself in my head that it's just RP. And that character was designed to have something like that happen. Like, I thought it would be a lot worse when I made the character, honestly. Like, when I first made the character, what I thought was going to happen is Happy was going to run around and make a bunch of friends, and then at some point, Angry was going to come out and, like, murder some of them, and then everyone was going to get upset with him and start to hate him. Like, that's how I thought his story was going to go. But then it took so long. He did do that, but it took so long for, like, that to actually sort of happen that people had really established relationships with him and gotten close with him and understood him. So when that eventually happened, they were very understanding. Also, like the first times that somebody else really came out, it was Sad and not Angry, just because of circumstances.
Really? When was the first time that happened?
Okay, so the first time that it kind of got close was when he met Alec Verkin. They did Dodo together randomly because I used to just do Dodo with random people, and then we just were like talking and decided to continue hanging out. They figured out through just asking him about his past and stuff that his mom was dead.
Oh.
because like he got to talking about his mom or whatever, talking about his past, and I dropped the little phrase that he occasionally drops of I was told she's in a better place.
Oh no.
And so
Oh.
they immediately knew what that meant, and then they decided to try to get him to confront that. So then on the beach up by Polito, they just kept like pushing on him, and this was at a point where Sad and Angry were very well locked away, and that was just sort of breaking down those walls. So I ended up just like the way I played it was like Sirius taking control. He took the car, drove to ammunition, bought a knife, drove back, took the knife out, and was like, drop it, essentially.
He went to buy a knife.
Yeah, he didn't have a knife, so he had to go buy a knife.
Wow.
And so that was like, they weren't exactly out per se, but that was when things started to break down. And then when the first time like Sad actually came out, Happy had a very bad week where he got hit by a racer and then run over by a bunch of cops and was in a wheelchair.
Damn racers.
And then Leo Escobar and Gary from Gary Church, Gary, not Buff Gary, who I think might have permed since then. And then also some other guy who had a beer helmet on, took him hostage to try to get bomb parts, but there was a shootout going on, so the police didn't respond, so they decided to throw him off a roof. But then he was in a wheelchair, so he landed it. So then they took him to a river and dumped him in the river. But essentially, like, that was just a really bad week for him, and so I had Sad break out. And I think that's actually when he started to befriend Veronica.
Yes.
It was that time because
when was that?
he needed someone to look after him, essentially, because he was in a wheelchair with two of his legs and one of his arms broken, and he was sad.
I have screenshots so I can tell how many months ago it was. I just have to find them on my Imgur.
It was,
I want to say it was
like,
after I came back from a trip.
Yeah, it was probably like February last year, I'm guessing. That's my guess. Maybe January.
So I don't remember when we first started interacting, like, seriously.
Yeah, we saw each other a couple times in the markets.
Yeah.
And not very much.
Anyway, I have a question from chat, which is, does Happy mind being called his government name in character? So, like, does he mind being called Franklin? Which is actually something I've been curious about as well.
He does mind, but also he understands, so he doesn't necessarily make a big deal about it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, when a cop on a scene calls him Franklin because they looked at dispatch and they don't know any better, like, he might not bother trying to correct them. But he prefers Happy because, well, Franklin or Frank has a different meaning to him. That's like who he was before his mother died, essentially.
Yeah.
Before he fully split.
Yeah.
Which, that's another thing about my character, is he has a tragic backstory.
Everyone's character has a tragic backstory.
Well, okay, because I was like, okay, I want to make a character that's just like happy all the time, and how would someone actually just be so obsessively optimistic? Well, trauma.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty good. I've always been invested in his backstory, even though I don't know a ton. I didn't even know his mom was dead until yesterday. I had always suspected, but I never got, like, full confirmation.
Yeah, because Happy doesn't know.
Yeah. But I'm
I
still
found-
wondering, was his mom, like, great, or was she terrible?
She was good. She was great.
So
'Cause
it
I
was
was-
around March or April of last year.
March or April last. Yeah. Because I wondered if she was terrible because it was like a trauma is what causes this, so was she terrible to him and he just thinks that she was good?
No, I've kind of like modified his backstory a bit as I've gone to try to make it make more sense. Because like after I made the character and had his mom die when he was like 18, people told me that DID usually is from trauma in like early childhood.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so it's like basically his mom was like the one good person that like stood up for him in his life.
Oh.
While other people were mean to him, and he had his own issues, but other people were mean to him or whatever. And so when she died, it was like the one person that he relied on being gone. That was the trauma.
Oh, it makes me so sad for Happy.
And she told him that she just wants him to be happy, and he takes everything literally.
Oh god. Oh fuck.
Yeah.
That is very sad. Honestly, sad backstories make for good RP though. That's why Johanna has such a sad backstory.
I know very few characters that don't have some element of tragedy in their backstory.
Yeah.
Um,
It makes for good roleplay. Makes
like
for good long conversations on a mountaintop.
true. And then, most people in V's inner circle know what she did in her past at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think it's funny how similar some of like Happy and Veronica's backstory is. Like it's different, but like it's similar in some ways.
That's what I feel like with Logan. Like, it's so crazy how similar Johanna and Logan are. I always think of them as like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, like the thing with Veronica is she was very much so manipulated into her marriage. Her father, she doesn't think he was a horrible man, but she has definitely learned that he wasn't a good one. That, he helped orchestrate her whole marriage from the time she was a child.
Wait, really? From the time she was a child? Oh.
Oh, like 12, 13, 14 years old, you're still a child.
Yeah.
Like, the whole plan was to get Veronica into this school because Casey had set eyes on her at some kind of function, I think is what it was. I was like, I want that one.
Good
Of
thing
course.
that they were evil but not homophobic.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, that's part of...
I'm
There's
I'm
very
okay with
progressive
Taylor,
evil
but I draw
mafia
the line
family.
at homophobia.
Yeah, I draw the line at being homophobic. That is the tagline of the D. Lorenzo crime family. I'm okay with the torture. I'm okay with the murder. Where I draw the line, homophobia. We are a progressive Italian mob family. But that's the way it was. But Casey has also learned the hard way that for the time being, she's considered expendable because her dad is still kicking it and still alive.
I'm treating it like she doesn't believe that. She is totally of the mindset that she will get out of there at some point. Like, her family will come through for her. That's what I've played her as.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Veronica views it as the only reason Casey's in prison is because her family views her as expendable. Because why isn't everyone else facing the same consequence as Casey?
Yeah. Casey
Casey
got screwed over.
Casey got screwed over because,
Well, I mean, screwed over, but she totally deserved it, but...
Oh,
Take that.
100%.
She
But
deserves it for everything she did, especially to Sad.
But it's also like there's other people in the crime family, which is still operational, who got away scot-free. But, who's to say Casey won't get out at some point?
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? Because we don't know anything about 4.0. Who's to say in 4.0 a lifer can't suddenly be freed?
Yeah.
At the start of 4.0, which I think would be an interesting thing to happen.
It would be. I would be unsure how to play that. There's still a lot with Casey I'm like defer to you about, but it's interesting playing someone else's
I know how I'd
character.
play that.
Yeah.
It's like
It's definitely a challenge to play someone else's character, but it's also pretty fun.
well, because like there's really like from my perspective, there's really only a few things that really need to stay the same. And it's like the rest is like if you say something happened, I go with it. If I say something happened, you kind of
Yeah.
go
We
with
just
it.
kind of force lore each other.
That's what I love about it is you can force lore each other. Which is, Veronica has this perspective because in her experience with the family that Casey must be expendable if her father's willing to allow her to be in prison. And I use the word allow because, quite frankly, from where Veronica's sitting, that's exactly what happened. God damn it.
What?
I see what you did there.
Listen, I made my character have the same sense of humor as I do.
You
Because,
really
like,
do just have the same exact personality as Happy.
No.
No, not like Happy as a whole.
well, then I have a question for you, Fluffy.
Ooh.
Do you ever see a time where angry, happy, sad, serious all come back together?
Yes, actually.
Oh.
I've sort of after the 5150 arc, that kind of came into my head of like I've done the things that I really set out to do with the split personalities, and so if things allow it, like it needs to be a really slow burn thing, I think, but I am open to them merging, and I think I'd like it because I think it allows me to play more nuance, which I find interesting. That's one of the struggles I've had with him is like when he's just this like all happy or all sad or whatever, then I can't get at the more like nuanced emotions as easily, which is also why he's changed a lot, I think. So I could definitely see that happening. He needs to resolve a lot of trauma, but
That's actually one of the questions I wanted to ask was where do you see your stories going and how do you continue on when, you feel like, oh, I've done all the things I set out to do with my character? Because in a way, I've been kind of wondering what to do with Johanna next. I want to hear what other people have to say.
I've never felt like there's nothing for me to do with the character. I don't know, there's always something new. Well, okay. There was a point where I was bored of the markets and was just doing Dodo all the time. Like when the markets were kind of dying, that I did get struggle there. But there was plenty more with the character. It was just I needed to establish the relationships in order for people to dive into it. But yeah, I don't know. When I do something, then I'll figure out something new to do with the character.
What about you, V?
Yeah. I think with Veronica...
How do V?
Yeah, it's fine. There have been times I've been tempted to pull the perma card, but I know I would regret it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's why I hate permas. I think everyone who does them regrets them.
But the thing with me is there are parts of V's story that I would love to see come to life. Um, you know, we still have the wife stuff in the background that lingers.
Yeah.
The way I have left things with the butcher subplot that happened this weekend is V doesn't know if she killed her or not.
Are you gonna get someone to play the butcher?
To be determined. Honestly, it all depends on if someone approaches me and if they're detached enough from Veronica's core. Because of what we had happen with Johanna and V.
Yeah. That was
where for a while it was hard to have them interact because there was all this stuff going on at once.
I don't regret it, but that was a little bit awkward.
So my hopes is if anyone else from V's past pops up, that it's someone that I'm comfortable enough RPing with and that I trust, but who isn't part of Veronica's core that she would be relying on during that time.
I think that's an advantage for both Happy and Veronica, that they're a little bit older than a lot of their friends. So, but like, I have essentially 10 years between when Happy's mom died and coming to Los Santos. That is very loosely laid out. Like, some things happened at some point during that. I haven't really defined it. So if ever I am struggling figuring out what to do, I can have something from his past come and shake things up. And it's really loosely defined. So if there's nothing left there, I can just invent something.
Yeah. I know some people hate when I do what I did this weekend, and it's like, Veronica comes back, and guess what? She's traumatized. But honestly, it's been a while since V was fully traumatized by something.
Yeah.
I think last summer was the most recent time because she came back from being tortured right back into being tortured.
Oh, that sucked because last summer I basically did the same thing that you just did, where I had Sirius leave the island to go do some shady things and then come back with like a shotgun blast to the leg or something. And I came back.
What the?
I came back right after the terror tortured everyone. So nobody had any spoons for Happy.
That's the thing too, is everyone is running low on spoons right now.
Yeah.
It
feels like everyone's always running low on spoons.
But it's more amplified right now, and I think it's because you're seeing people like Kiki have no spoons.
Oh yeah.
And Kiki's kind of like
He's the rock.
She kind of is in regards to EMS. Like, after Luna leaves EMS, Kiki kind of steps into the EMS mom role. And Veronica always feels bad anytime she has to call Kiki and be like, hey, we have this work problem. She wants Kiki's time off to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
She knows Kiki's going through it. She doesn't want to add to the burden, but she also knows that Kiki knew what she was getting herself into with Chief. So it's like, when you look at EMS stuff, it's like
EMS stuff is so complicated.
V just does not like bothering Kiki about work stuff. Is the bottom line. She tries to handle as much of it as she can by just like going directly to the rest of command, but sometimes it's just easier to call someone in city and be like, hey, we need to talk.
Yeah.
We got some shady shit going on that we need to talk about and deal with before things really go off the rails here. But I like this idea that V can never escape trauma.
Yeah.
The way I design the character is she can have good things happen to her, but at the end of the day, there's always this element of something awful lurking in the background. Her family has a superstition. If you're born on Friday the 13th, you are basically the burden bearer.
How many people in her family are born on Friday the 13th for that to be a superstition?
It happens like once every generation or like every couple generations. And it's been such a recurrent thing in her family that there's usually one kid like every, let's say, like 100 years or so born on Friday the 13th, and they're kind of like this tent pole for all of the bad luck. Everyone else in the family's doing great, but this kid is just suffering.
Sounds like the parents should not be trying for a kid 9 months before a Friday the 13th.
I mean, it could so happen in her family that one of them was actually born prematurely. It doesn't really.
Oh, I guess that's true.
It just happens. And V was born on Friday the 13th. Her birthday was on Friday the 13th last year, and it was meant to be one of the worst days of her life. But she actually had a good birthday for the first time in years.
I messed it up.
It was your fault.
The trade-off is this year she was being tortured in a basement somewhere, having her fingernails ripped off and, you know, her hand broken and the word traitor carved into her chest.
Yeah, you got so frustrated with me making V have a good birthday last year that you went out of town for this year.
I think my favorite part of it is everyone was like, no, we'll celebrate your birthday before you leave. Nobody did anything for her birthday before she left town.
Wait, really? Oh no.
Yeah. A couple people
I honestly didn't know when it was.
Yeah. And most people didn't even say happy belated birthday to her. Baldo did.
Know. You never told me.
I know.
Tells Johanna anything.
Yeah, like last year, the only reason Happy knew was because she'd mentioned it to him a bunch, and like also it was like the same day as like prom or something, right?
Prom last
and so he knew that everyone was going to be busy, so he's like, "Well, I don't have to work this event. I'm just gonna like try to make sure she has a good day."
And honestly, it was so much fun going out, finding the ingredients to make a cake, and just RP the
and that was like I had no idea what I was doing, and that was also me just trying to be like, okay, let me see if I can just like make some RP. Where do we find some eggs? I don't know. Let's go to a farm or something. Or like trying to think that, and eventually just fast tracking it by going to the 24/7. But that was good.
Yeah, because we were never gonna find eggs anywhere.
Well, I was inspired by Eva on Andy Jones spending like multiple hours running around just role playing making cocaine.
That was before cocaine was in the city.
Yeah, cocaine wasn't in the city, so she just like Googled how to make cocaine and got a recipe.
Googled how to make cocaine?
Yeah, I just found a recipe, you know.
She's on a list.
Fine.
On a list.
It's for role play. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then just like went around doing all this stuff.
I didn't specify what Veronica was injected with because I didn't want to end up on a list before I was flying on a plane.
Oh god.
I mean, and you know what? It tracks it. They're like Kate couldn't figure out what she was injected with, and by now it's flushed out of her system, so the doctors wouldn't be able to figure it out either. But yesterday I forgot to like slash me has broken hand / me missing fingernails because the full list of the damage done. She's missing fingernails. She has multiple cuts, a broken hand, facial damage. She has a cut on the back of her head from knocking her head against something. Traitors carved into her chest. And she was injected with something to kind of pacify her and knock her out.
Man, she was real dumb there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the worst she's been through, but it's up there, and it has re-traumatized her because last year when they had her, I think they only had her for a day or so. And it wasn't as bad because they wanted to keep her alive. They didn't want to kill her. This time around, it was more personal. And it was like a kind of, all right, you've had your time, you've had your fun, you're coming home kind of deal. And we're going to make you remember who you are and what happens when you cross us type deal. At least that was my vision for it, because I'm like, she wasn't really too bad last summer when she came back, but this year she's gonna be a lot worse. There's gonna be consequences.
Yeah.
There's people that she is struggling to be around, even though she knows they are safe people.
Arrestus and Chaz asking, how do these characters function? That's too much for one person. Well, I mean, in Happy's case, he's not one person.
Yeah, how Happy handles this is he forgets all of this bad stuff and lets his other personalities deal with it.
How does V function?
Well, there's a lot V doesn't remember from her past.
Oh,
memory
so same
loss.
way.
Yeah.
See, they're basically the same character.
The way her brain protected her, and this does happen with actual trauma responses, is her brain was like, this is too much for you. We're not going to remember this. I am locking this memory away. We are not even going to try to process that because that is too much. And that's basically how her years from the age of 16 to, what was she, like 26, 27 when she left? That's how it went, is she doesn't remember how many people she actually tortured and killed. She doesn't remember a lot of the times that she herself was tortured because her brain was like, hey, yo, fam, this is too much. Because Veronica got no enjoyment out of it. She's not an evil person. Meanwhile, someone
imply that she's an evil person.
Meanwhile, the real torture for Veronica was having to do this stuff in the first place.
Yeah.
And she has the constant reminder of it on her forearms. She's got 15 tally marks on one arm, 15 on the other, and that's just the 15, the 30 that the terror was able to figure out.
Terror.
Heck the terror.
Heck the terror. Heck JB.
Heck 'em.
You know, Casey met the terror in prison.
I figured she would.
And I was not expecting it. He literally mentioned V, and I was like, oh my gosh. It was great.
I have to say, I'm gonna be curious what happens when Kenneth does go for parole.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be the big thing.
Because the thing is, Kenneth has so many different people he can go after.
Yeah.
And want to go after. The question is, where is Veronica going to fall on his priority list?
Yeah.
Because it's not just Casey that he would have reason to go after her, but he knows that Veronica said something to somebody about the phone calls. And that's why he got
curious if he'll even get parole.
Which I think he will.
Parole.
One, for the RP. Parole.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is why I think he's gonna get parole, is because Mel Rickenbacker got parole. Balto got parole.
Yeah.
But Balto was less serial killer, more.
Yeah, I just remember that the judge's ruling back when he was first sentenced was basically, since the mayor was out of town and part of the death penalty process is having the opportunity to appeal to the mayor and have them grant clemency, it was life with parole.
Yeah.
So like if the mayor had not been at like TwitchCon or whatever, then I don't know if that's where he was, but it was at something, then he probably would have gotten either life without parole or death penalty.
Don't you have to consent to those?
Death penalty, yes. Life, no. But the thing with Mel Rickenbacker is when he was granted parole, it was because of the length of time he had been in there. Because he essentially had served multiple life sentences by that point. I do hope that Kenneth gets out because, one, good RP.
Yeah.
I hated what happened to the character because we said something to Kiki and then Kiki talked to DOC. I think putting someone in AdSec for, what was it, 7-8 years?
Yeah, that was a lot.
Is
I just said
too
8,
much.
yeah.
I understand, like, from the DOC standpoint, wanting to RP harsh punishments. But when you're putting someone in AdSec for 7-8 years, you're essentially saying you can't be on your main character for 7 to 8 days.
Yeah, it's
Which-
a little...
Which, yes, have other characters you go play, and I know Mr. West does have other characters, but at the same time, you're basically shutting down someone's RP on their main character for a week.
Yeah.
Because they're an AdSec. It's one thing when it's life in prison and you have temps coming in and lifers and DOC around, but AdSec is solitary confinement.
Yeah.
There is nothing to be done there, really. Unless you want to sit in the server for hours a day staring at a wall.
Yeah, I mean, the most you can do is stand, because there is the outside area, you can stand by the fence and hope someone walks up and, like, talks with you, essentially.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I've only gotten put into the AdSec once, and that was when I stabbed Happy, stabbed Sad, or I think it was angry at that person.
Yeah, probably.
But when I got put into AdSec, I did feel like terrible about like what happened. I was like, oh my god, I stabbed him.
It was great.
It was great, but I'm really bad with like confrontation and having people mad at me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone was pissed at Casey, like, because she had all their shit on her.
Oh, yeah. She got messed up.
Yeah, she got messed up.
They approached Sad in the library, like the two of them. I don't remember who it was. It was like Brian and
Amelia?
Amelia. Yeah, they approached him and were basically like, okay, tell us what happened. And he's like cornered in the library and like, no one's going to find him here. But
they were all too sympathetic of him.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping that they'd like beat him up or something. Like, I wanted even more conflict. I wanted people to be on Casey's side, but
yeah, that's the one thing is I wish sometimes people were a bit more like less understanding in a way. I wish people would be more angry irrationally at characters. But
I mean, part of that is just that happened at a bad time for Casey.
Yeah.
Because she hadn't been there long enough to really establish strong relationships. And then Sad going in there and like immediately Charlotte basically getting all of the lifers against her.
Charlotte was like the huge wrench in everything.
So
I don't regret how it went down because it was amazing. I was like, oh god. The only thing I regret with that is that it was during finals time. And I was like struggling between finals and RP and wanting to be on the server for hours and hours.
The one thing that makes me sad is the one time Veronica got sent up to prison, Casey wasn't awake.
Oh, yeah.
Neither was Kenneth, because it was late at night.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been pretty cool, but also I wouldn't have had anything to do, really.
Yeah, but it would have... I think it would have just been interesting for them not to have the glass between them.
Yeah. But I like how things happened with her kind of getting to V through Sad. That was
V
so
was
amazing.
pissed.
She was, I know.
She wanted to find a way to get into the prison and take care of the problem herself.
I mean, Casey fucked him up. Like, it was I still feel bad about carving the failure into his back. Like, anytime
Oh yeah, I get so
anytime you
much
do the
joy from
slash
doing a
me,
slash me around Johanna.
I feel terrible. I'm like, oh god, I did that.
Um, one of the other things is, has Casey met Anastasia Loreley?
No, I haven't played Casey a lot recently. I need to get back
Okay.
into it. Prison just felt kind of dead, but I do want to
Yeah.
get back into it. I sometimes it's just a little bit hard.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes I'm like, man, I could make a lifer or a specific DOC character, but then I'm like, I am too conflicted. I am way too
Yeah,
conflicted.
the conflict is so hard.
It's like I would love to do it, but like right now, because of where their story is at, like I can't.
Yeah.
I could make via DOC, but that would be a little too much spice.
Yeah, that would be very spicy.
There's 2 people who want her dead. No, 3 people who want
Oh,
her
yeah.
dead in that prison at the present time. So
You're so good at pissing people off.
I know, right? Like one is just angry that she's alive, and has been. V didn't see the interrogation of Anastasia Loreley, but I saw parts of it. And
And
I'm
go
like,
AFK for a minute.
I'm just like, oh, that would have been great. But like, oh, see, I knew some of the plans for V. I didn't know entirely what they were because the RP of it. But like, I knew the potential things. But hearing Owl say that as Anastasia, I was like, oh, V would have been fucked.
Oh, that was Owl? Oh.
Oh yeah, it was one of Owl's serial killers.
Man. At that point,
'Cause
I want to play a serial killer.
I technically have one. I just don't have time to play her.
Yeah, that's the problem is time. I at some point I'll do it, even though I'm terrified of confrontation and doing
That's one
crime.
of the interesting things with Ignite is I don't know if it's just because
Yeah.
they don't want to deal with it or because they were getting the PD set up, but serial killer RP is not allowed. on
Yeah, I
Ignite.
know. And I understand why, but also serial killer RP is so fun to play off of.
Like, I don't know if it's because of the era 1980s. You have a lot of the prolific serial killers active during the time, and they don't want anyone to try to replicate it. But I think
Oh, is it not allowed on Ignite?
it's not
Yeah.
allowed on Ignite. I think when done right, serial killer RP is really good.
I feel like they should have a whitelist for it because at some point on NoPixel, there were a lot of serial killers and it got a little
Yeah.
overwhelming. But
I feel like we were going to one call a day, if not more, that we're all serial killer victims.
Yeah, I feel like it's good if it's spread out, if it's not very many at a time, and so you have the resources to do an investigation.
We don't
all that
really
stuff.
see too many Shift 2 serial killers anymore. I think they're primarily in Shift 1 because that's when all the people who actually like enjoy investigating that shit are around. But I just want V to finally get got by another serial killer.
I want
I'm happy to get
Johanna.
got.
I want Johanna to get got as well. No one ever goes after Johanna.
It's like
one time that Happy got, it was super scuffed because when he got, I was bleeding from a local shooting me and thought it would be funny to run around in circles until I passed out with Charlotte. So she was passed out in a wheelchair, and then he rolled up to me, and I passed out while he was driving around. So he had to do all of the RP with me down instead of him getting a nice, like, dramatic stab at the end or anything.
Oh God.
he got caught. Another serial killer turned the terror in because he caught him trying to stab Kiki.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
my thing is, the most recent time Veronica would have gotten got, Owl got caught, but then DOC, there was a clerical error. So Anastasia Loreley was let go after her 24-hour hold expired. Owl obviously let them know, like, oh, see, hey, this happened, and they all decided, you know what, we're gonna roll with it. Owl only got caught because who was it? I think it was Turo. It was either Turo or Helsing. noticed the moped crashed out and then saw her feet in the bush. And then the dog alerted or something. And I was like, God damn it. I wanted emotional terrorism.
Yeah, it's so good for emotional terrorism. Like when I was doing the stuff with Brett, that was so good. I miss him. I want him to come back. But you guys,
I like when everything's going great. Personally, that's the best. Just be happy all the time.
Yeah, you guys probably don't know this, but my old character in 2.0, Nikki Rivers, she was very entangled with serial killers, even though she was a Civ herself. She was actually friends with Jasper Saxon. And I actually have a cassette tape, which I am so proud of. I'm like, that's a badge of honor to have a cassette tape from Jasper Saxon.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was some of the most fun RP. Like, I had met him the literal first day I got into NoPixel. I got involved in that the first day. I also got stabbed the first day. It was amazing. I still, like, thinking about that time, still like, man, everything that happened was great.
My first 2 months in NoPixel were like the most boring. Like no, I got on in the city. I got in a taxi and like asked like where can I go to make some money. They got me a job at the farmers market, and then just like worked at the farmers market without anything happening. I didn't have to go to the hospital for like 2 months.
Yeah, my first week in the server was a lot of me being nervous. And it took me a week. Matthias Dawson was the first person Veronica interacted with, and it was so good. Like, the way I play Veronica is she had never smoked weed before she moved to the city.
Oh. Even though
she had done
other
stuff, but she just had never touched weed. She didn't like the smell of it. But she tried some. She smokes weed every now and then, but she had never done it before. So Matthias is the only person in the city who still calls her Miss Ronnie. Because that's what Veronica was introducing herself as. She's like, I'm Veronica, but you can call me Ronnie. But everyone just kind of defaulted to calling her V.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind.
I like the V.
But it's just interesting because Matthias will still call her Miss Ronnie. And I love that because it's a testament to how long she's known Matthias at this point. Yeah. I haven't seen him around in a while, but
I feel like Johanna has known V like for a long, long time.
Yes.
Like, I met her one of the first days I was on the server, and the first person I met was Rick. Oh god, Rick. I always say that the whole thing with Rick still looms large over everything Johanna has done, which maybe is not as accurate anymore with, the time that has passed, but it was definitely, like, a huge thing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I remember how suspicious V was of Rick.
Yeah. Everyone was so suspicious of Rick, and even Johanna at that point, like, because she was hanging out with him. And she was bad when she was first in the city. Like, she was definitely, like, not in a great state. And that made her very susceptible to things. Like, the Johanna you know now is very different from how she was then. Which 100%. Is so interesting. But yeah, I love the progression of how things have gone. I love, where Johanna is. I love being able to, experiment with new things on her. Because at first, I don't know if you know, but I conceptualized Johanna just as a what if, what would a person's life look like? Like, that was the start of me thinking about her. And then obviously she just became a regular character that was struggling with sleep. Like, that was her whole thing, is that she just really dislikes sleep and all the things that kind of came with it, like hallucinating, agitation, anger, not knowing what's real or not. And then that slowly kind of morphed into like schizophrenia, and then, the idea of her twin sister being kind of the instigator there. And it kind of evolved from there, and I've always been happy with how that kind of evolved. And even now with the whole Mania episode, like I've reclassified what happened with Johanna thinking she was dead as kind of a depressive episode almost at that point in time. So, the seeds are kind of planted even all the way back then.
And
I
that's
love
the
just
thing.
doing stuff and then just like coming up with an explanation
Yeah,
that fits later.
exactly.
Exactly. That's one of the things that sticks with Veronica. Like when she saw Johanna going through like that manic episode, all she could think about was what happened the last time she saw
Yeah.
Johanna like that, and leading into her thinking she was dead for quite a while.
Yeah,
And
it was like a month and a half or something.
it was a long time, and that was really hard for V to grapple with because she didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I remember you
Um,
talking about chocolate when Johanna was first
Yeah.
thinking she was dead. You used
V-
chocolate as a code word for the
Psychologist, yeah.
psychologists for some reason.
V sent Josh to get chocolate, and that was just, can you go get the numbers of the therapists so I can start calling around?
Yeah.
Because she wasn't sure how Johanna would react to her saying, "I'm calling a therapist for you."
Yeah.
So, and it's not the last time V has used a code word for something. When she doesn't know how someone's gonna react to something, she'll kind of dance around it and use other words for it. But that's because she doesn't know what she's dealing with. I think it's been interesting seeing some of the things play out. Like Happy's 5150, Johanna's 5150,
Yeah.
Kiki's obvious breakdown where like V doesn't want to push. So she waits for Kiki to come to her, and actually a couple weeks ago there was a phone call. Happy, Logan, and V had gotten up onto the forbidden roof. Kiki called V, and they had a talk, and that's why V stopped pushing so hard for people to come to her. Because she's like, when they're ready, they will.
Which is tough because, I don't think Johanna reaches out to people.
She doesn't. But V, again,
Yeah.
her lessons learned is when I push,
Yeah.
I end up pushing people away.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing she wants to do. And that is a constant fear of hers. Because one of the things she spirals through is thinking that nobody actually wants her around.
Hey, that's my character's thing.
People secretly hate her. It's a
that's
common
what I
theme.
feel as well.
It's a common theme among people, I think.
Yeah.
Especially when you have such a traumatized group.
Yeah. All EMS are traumatized. It's just inevitable.
It's inevitable. Much like Thanos.
Although I do have the unique character trait of being a good patient.
You do.
I mean, Joanna's a good patient as well, so it's not so unique.
Feels unique.
Meanwhile, V, knowing full well that there were doctors on duty at one point, was refusing to go see doctors today.
Yeah, going to grandma's and.
Well, it's just because one of the things with her is, in me amping things up, it'll be interesting to see her reactions to certain people. I'm gonna leave it at that.
I'm excited as well. I want like more stuff to happen with Johanna and kind of, I've always been like a huge proponent of like making waves in a way. Like that's what I wanted to happen from the whole Mania arc, and maybe it didn't pan out exactly as I expected. Like everyone was very understanding, and maybe I just wanted someone that wasn't understanding. But
well, that's the other side of EMS is everyone in EMS has seen so much shit.
Yeah.
That it's like, all right,
they're just like, yeah, okay.
Time to activate support mode.
Yeah. But I did have way too much fun kidnapping Happy. That was
Yeah, that was great. And then not knowing where to bring him.
Yeah, listen, I knew when I was setting out to do it, I was like, I don't know where the heck we're going to go, but
Hey.
Johanna doesn't either, so it's
You
okay.
gotta look on the bright side. I know where White Widow is now.
Yeah. And then I was thinking about it the other day. I've ruined my favorite place in, Los Santos, which is the waterfall, and now I can never go back there without thinking like, man, I totally was just an idiot there.
Yeah, you just fell down.
Fell down. I felt so dumb.
What's funny is, I guess if you hadn't fallen down, V and Kiki were getting in the helicopter to start looking.
Yeah, you probably would have found us because my plan was to go to me and Happy's house next. I feel like that's where you would have looked.
Well, they were getting airborne, so
yeah,
they might not.
Yeah,
because
Johanna was driving her car, so you could have found us there.
And Sirius's plan was essentially get her to go somewhere, and then wherever we go, make her feel like it's a bad spot to go, so that she'd then have to move him again.
Yeah.
So he was just gonna keep doing that as much as he could and try to call for help if they passed a cop or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. But a part of me is like, oh man, that would have been so cool to have that happen. But I gotta think like I can't keep dwelling on the what ifs. Like what happened was very fun, and
I found it pretty funny passing random people and asking them for help, and them just kind of be like, oh, whatever. They might have 911, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then like walking back 2 minutes later because I was in soft cuffs, and I'm like, okay, so my kidnapper fell. Could you call 911 now?
Yeah.
And then they had handcuffs and let me out.
Oh god. But yeah, I'm glad with how that panned out, because in a way, like, I had messaged you, I was like, if for some reason, like, no one's able to find us, would you be okay with this being a multi-day thing?
I was
but it
down.
didn't end up being that way. I think if it was
kind of expecting it to be.
Yeah, I was expecting it as well, but I'm an idiot.
No one's perfect the first time around.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just have to kidnap someone again.
Yeah, just round 2.
Manic episode round 2?
Yeah.
I hate repeating plot points, but it was a ton of fun, honestly. I do think that Johanna's, kind of up and down moods will be a factor in the future. I just need to figure out how to play it out. But to be honest, I had the idea of the whole kidnapping Happy thing in my mind for a while. Like, it was just something I thought of one day. I was like, Johanna has a attachment to Happy, and wouldn't it be funny if one day you kidnapped him to try and keep him safe?
I wanted her to hurt him so bad, and I know she wouldn't have done it, but I was just like, oh man, if you hurt me, I'm gonna ice you so hard.
Yeah.
I'm so sad so earlier in the Manic episode, she had the sledgehammer and she hit Happy with it because he basically no-balls her. And it left me with like an 1/8 of my health or something. And I was so disappointed.
That you couldn't ice you?
Yeah.
Oh god. That would have been even worse in the Manic episode. That would have...
Yeah. It would have been great.
Yeah. But yeah, I was planning on, ramping things up as the days went by without, people, I don't know, 5150ing her. I was like, every day it was getting worse. That was my philosophy, which was a lot of fun, but also playing Manic Johanna was very draining in a way.
Yeah.
Constantly running around and feeling anxious, knowing like, okay, I'm going to do some crazy stuff that I'm not used to because I don't play a crim.
That's the thing, right? Anytime you're doing these kinds of arcs that you have to tap into part of yourself you don't normally
Yeah.
Or that just straight up doesn't exist. It can be draining.
Yeah.
I know this arc that I'm going on with V is going to be draining because yesterday I had to remind myself so many times not to have V immediately respond to Charlotte.
Oh.
I'm like, no, V, no, we don't know. It's been interesting trying to remember like when to do certain cues and stuff like that. To kind of clue people into certain things. It's a challenge, but it's why I like down bad arcs.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to play a happy character.
Wow.
Wow.
But like, it's easier to play someone being happy than it is to play someone going through some of the harder things. Because you have to tap into a lot more emotional energy. Unless you're like actually like sad that day and then you have to pretend to be happy, then it can be draining.
Yeah. I'm sure it's
Oh, yeah,
really
I've done
hard
that
playing
before.
happy when you're sad. But in some ways it might like make you a bit happier just to pretend like you're happy. Like,
That's honestly one of the reasons that I made that character was
Aw.
because I wanted to like have something that would lift me up consistently.
Oh. That's sad.
What? What's sad about that?
I mean, it's just like, I guess just, I don't know, using a character to lift up your spirits.
I mean, at the end of the day, RP is an escape.
Yeah, it is.
And the thing with the way I play Veronica is when she's down bad, I get to have the cathartic release of crying. Without actually having a reason to be sad IRL.
I do like that part of, doing the sad arcs. Is, the cathartic release.
And that's one of the things people have said to me in the past, because when Josh and Veronica were going through it, there were a lot of streams spent crying. Like there is, because V loved him so much. She thought that she had to mold herself to be what she thought he wanted because of her relationship with Casey. And that turned the relationship super toxic. And the other aspect of it that made that relationship so toxic is Josh's expectations for her were quite literally unrealistic.
Yeah.
She's a recovering addict or recovering alcoholic. To expect her to never touch either of those things again and to be perfectly fine when she is early on in her recovery was kind of insanity. But like the way he reacted to some things too, even when it wasn't related to drug use or alcohol, should have been a red flag for Veronica. But, she loved him a lot. She wanted to marry him. So it just wasn't.
The V and Josh arc that was always so fun to play around with, especially because that was when I was RPing Johanna as having a crush on V.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Mm.
But you see, and then her feeling like when they broke up, Johanna was like, "Oh my god, this is my chance," and then she immediately got with Randy.
Yeah. And then, she had like a month where she didn't really see anyone seriously. She went on a couple dates with Kurt.
And she specifically said, "I'm not dating EMS."
Oh yeah, because she
Right.
didn't want to bring that drama.
Yeah. Were you gonna say something, Fluffy?
No, I just said rip.
Oh. Yeah, Joanna's love life is terrible.
And then she marries Harvey, and I think Harvey's good for her. I know in character there's a lot of people who are like, Harvey Holden.
I don't really know Harvey that well.
V finally has a partner who she feels like she can be fully honest with, but he's not going to just enable her. where Randy would just enable her on the rare occasions he was around. Like Harvey will say, maybe don't do that, but he doesn't get mad at her for doing things like Josh would. He might prefer that she not do things. Like one of the first things he said yesterday was, "Don't murder people. Stop murdering people."
Is fun.
That's fair. That's a fair.
But yeah, that's a fair expectation.
Stance, I'd say.
Yeah, he was just like, yeah, maybe just don't do that, And he's like, yeah, I mean, you're right, but I wanted to tie up this loose end. And I think it was their dynamic. It really helps that for the first time, this is an RP partner I don't talk to out of character.
Oh, really?
Nesk and I very rarely communicate out of character. Sometimes we'll reply to each other on Twitter. Sometimes he'll send me something in DMs just to help provide clarity for something. But it just wouldn't make sense to explain like in character. Just to so I as a streamer have context to something.
Interesting.
And like as a role player have context to something.
Yeah.
Like we don't talk. The last time he sent me something was when he permed Scott Boulderman, because I was just kind of curious, like, was it like something he was planning on doing? And no, it was just like it was the time for that character. But like it's been nice. I think that's part of why that relationship is also very healthy in character, because we don't really talk out of character.
Yeah. Relationship RP is hard to navigate. That's why I always try to do the opposite of my sexuality. Like, I'm lesbian, so I'm always like, any long-term relationships I get in are going to be, straight couples, just because that makes it a bit easier. And I know, Fluffy, you play Happy as asexual and aromantic, right?
Sort of.
Wait, only sort of?
So, Franklin as a whole is heterosexual.
Oh.
But he has had bad past experiences. Like very frequently relationships would be the thing that would like trigger an angry episode or something like that. And so essentially like in the process of forgetting about those experiences / serious recognizing that these are potentially dangerous for him because relationships are very emotionally extreme. He's kind of has kind of lost that part of him, which is why also he like has a very difficult time understanding sex. Like he just doesn't understand all of this stuff because his memories around that and his mind around that is just kind of missing.
That's one of my favorite things about Happy, right? Is when you have to explain something to him, because it used to mortify V, but now she's just like, Happy, it just means this.
Yeah. Oh my god, it was so funny. Like, okay, when I first did this, I just thought it was like I didn't have all this like backstory and stuff planned out. I just thought it would be funny to not understand like whatever. So I just didn't, and then came up with the backstory later. But then for so long, like everybody would be trying to use these weird metaphors and stuff, and I'd be like, okay, so where does the sandwich come in? I don't understand it. And then, okay, yeah, there's a stork comes and then gives you a sandwich or what? What? It was so good.
And then everyone slowly transitioned to being just very blunt with him.
Oh, yes. But it's led to some of my best moments, I think. I need to make sure I keep that clip of Kiki somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. What were we saying? Relationship RP. I actually have some questions in the chat I should ask.
Okay.
Mick asked, does Fluffy have a logbook to separate characters? Like, I guess, like, how to how do you basically embody different characters and still keep it consistent?
Yeah, I'm too lazy to do that, so I just made them share memories.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So basically, they share memories unless, the way I say it is if they expend a lot of energy to keep something secret, then they can do so. Basically, what that means is that if it's convenient for the plot, then they don't remember what other people have experienced.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I don't have to worry about it.
Okay. And how was the conversation like when I approached V to play Casey? Or Mel to play Casey. Fuck! It was right there and I still said V! The conversation was basically me just impulsively being like, man, maybe V's talked about this character a lot. I asked her, were you ever intending for someone to play her in the prison? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, it could be fun to play her. That's basically how it went down. And then she gave me a bunch of the resources she has for playing the character, like backstory and some news articles, which was really interesting. Playing her for the first time was intimidating because it's so hard playing someone else's character, but I'm very glad that I ended up doing it because it led to my favorite RP moments with that 5150 and all that.
It's always interesting never knowing if Casey's gonna be awake when I go up to the prison for stuff. Nowadays, V doesn't go up to the prison nearly as much as she used to because Balto's out of prison. But when V would be visiting Balto, there were a couple times she walked in and Casey was in there.
Yeah.
Which led to some interesting moments. But then V would have to go on a call because I was on the EMS train, which really isn't an issue these days
Yeah, it
with the
really
queue.
isn't.
But back then it was because I had just stopped paying for Prio.
Yeah.
But I was very excited. The funny thing is, I think it was like a few weeks later, someone else had approached me about like, oh, have you ever thought? I'm like, someone else has already beat you to the punch.
Wait, someone else approached you?
Yes.
What?
Someone else did approach me a couple weeks later. I was like, sorry.
Wow.
Someone else. Yeah.
I hopped in right at the right time, I guess.
Yeah, because
I'm so curious who that is now.
Yeah.
Let me double check to make sure I have the right person.
Mick is saying that.
Yeah.
The conversation.
It was Sun. Yeah, she approached me a couple weeks after that, and I was like, funny enough, someone had actually approached me a couple weeks ago, so you're out of luck there, because I think she had wanted just a change of pace from Charlie, because I don't think Millie had come to the city yet. But I think it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I fucked up on the the number of stitches in this thing. That's why I'm humming. I'll figure it out.
Oopsie doodle.
Oopsie doodle. I always manage to do that somehow. I always manage to screw something up. But anyway, Mick is saying that the conversation when I was talking with Ursula and V stood up at the prison was amazing, which I was so stun-locked when that happened. I was like, oh my god, what do I say? I'm not prepared for this.
I forget why I had gone up there, too.
That's good.
But,
yeah.
It might have been to see if Happy was awake.
I don't think that was when Happy was around. Was it?
I forget why she was up there.
Yeah, I think it was, actually. That
I,
whole
I
time.
yeah, I remember. I think you said that you had been up there earlier to look for me, but it was before I was awake.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then that's what happened when Casey told Happy that he was the reason why she knew V's name. She was gaslighting him into thinking that he had spilled V's name to her and basically,
Yeah,
told her.
it was in that week because V had walked in, not realizing Casey was awake, realized Ursula saw her. Ursula probably recognized her and is now like, well, I really can't trust Ursula now. V does not trust Ursula to this day
Yeah,
because of that conversation she walked in on.
Oh, I'm just remembering now that the DOC had like let me have a note with phone numbers on it.
Yeah, I still have that.
And I was like walking around with it that whole week, just like, come on, just like hurt me and rob me. Just take this.
Yeah, you ended up dropping it for me for Casey because I didn't rob you. You were like, this falls out of pocket.
Yeah, wait, I don't know if I was supposed to do that, but whatever.
Well, I mean, it worked because
yeah,
it
because
furthered
it's
RP.
like, yeah, because it was like I didn't know like in character or out of character if you had any of those phone numbers or anything, and I was just like, I felt a little bad because like Sad going up there kind of made it so all this RP that you two had been building was like instead happening between Casey and Sad.
Well,
Or like all this stuff was. I mean, it wasn't necessarily. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
Johanna didn't have like. Johanna was invested in the Happy stuff, but I think the stuff that happened with Casey was so much more interesting, and it gave me the good conversation with Sad afterwards.
Well, no, I mean the stuff like between Casey and Veronica.
Oh,
where like that had been building like.
Yeah, V had no clue that she was there, and it Happy going into the prison kind of like.
Yeah, like that sparked all this stuff, and
Yeah,
it kind of cut short a lot of the slow burn.
Yeah,
and so I'm like,
but
if the one thing I wanted her to get out of this was kind of the ability to torment V a little bit, I guess, of like have her phone number, have the phone numbers of a couple other people, so if she wanted to, she could like call out and mess with people.
Yeah.
God, I remember Casey calling Veronica, and it was already a bad day for Veronica, I think.
I think V was like, my medics have been hurt, or something like that.
Something had happened that day, and it was just the last straw for Veronica. And what frustrates Veronica is whenever Charlotte is there when she gets a phone call like that, and Charlotte's just like, hang up, Veronica, hang up. Because, like, Veronica knows full well that Charlotte entertains those conversations.
Yeah. Man, this is making me want to play Casey more. Casey knows when V's birthday is, so.
True.
Knows that it has just passed.
Oh.
But. I'm basically just waiting for Smiley's parole there. I used to be really into farming corn on Casey in the prison. Because that was
you were farming all the time.
Because it was just like, it was fun, but also it invested a lot of time. I was like, oh my god, I can't keep doing this.
It's the only thing to do.
Yeah, it's the only thing to do.
That's the thing, is that you're gonna wake up, there's not gonna be anybody else awake, and you're just gonna farm corn by yourself.
Yeah, that's the hard part about playing a lifer. I wish the cuff timer didn't exist. I wish we got more people sent up to the prison.
Yeah.
That cuff timer, man. But anyway, yeah, I don't regret anything of how that, whole thing played out. That was the best. Like, honestly, that might even top the Jasper stuff that, happened in terms of best RP I've done.
What?
What?
No.
I mean, it was so good. Like, I was spending so much time in RP.
It was pretty good. I'm just glad that I did that and now don't have to do that again.
Such an interesting time because Parsons had just burned down.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was perfect.
it was
Actually,
perfect timing. Yeah. I don't know. I really enjoyed the 5150 arc I went on. It was a bit slow in Parsons, but having Manic Johanna, was just so much fun. Having her think that Charlotte was out to kill her was amazing.
yeah.
And just slowly amping it up. And there's so much more that could be played with on that whole arc. And even though I, wish that, maybe more consequences came out of it, maybe people treat her differently, I'm still glad I went through with it. I mean, the one major consequence that came out of it was one I didn't expect, which was Happy kicking her out of the house.
Oh
miss
yeah, I did that.
house. I miss it so much.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, no, it makes sense, but I did love waking up there. I loved leaving you like notes and stuff. But yeah, I I need more Johanna and Happy interaction in my life. It's a necessity for me.
Well, you gotta make it happen then.
Yeah, I try, but then no one ever invites Johanna out to do stuff with them.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that I learned on Happy was you kind of have to put yourself out there and not necessarily invite yourself, but ask if you can go along with things.
Which is tough for me, being
There's
socially anxious.
Yeah, I mean it's tough for me too. Like I don't like calling people,
Yeah.
but I've gotten in the habit in NoPixel of just like get up and then just call people until I have someone to hang out with. Because
Yeah.
like when Happy was first becoming friends with like Veronica and what are the rest of that friend group, like Ash and Pact and people, you just like basically like pick up the phone and just like call people and be like, you want to hang out? And you know, sometimes they'd be like, no, sorry, already doing something, and then you go and do dodo with random people or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I need to do that more.
it's just like he actually brought it up in this like I don't remember what we called it, like confession circle or whatever. Everyone got in a circle and talked about what problems they were facing and stuff, what was bothering them, and that's what he brought up. Is it felt like nobody would contact him; he always had to contact other people, and like that's just how it was until eventually he got close enough with people where it stopped being that way. But even still, it's like that a lot. But it's okay.
Yeah.
But also, since he's had that experience, he tends to have a very just like expect that of other people kind of mindset of like, if you want to hang out with me, ask.
I gotta find a way to introduce that in Johanna in some way, like have her be more confident in herself and stand up for herself. Get on that Johanna up good arc. Because Johanna's been on a downhill arc for a while. But I can't resist. I can't resist, doing the down bad.
The down bad is fun in
moderation. It is. Yeah.
Moderation.
Yeah. I mean, I had a whole year and a half between the Johanna thinking she was dead episode and the Manic episode. That was... But, yeah. I love playing Johanna just so much. I really enjoy, playing a character that has a lot of flaws and has a lot of good friends, but it never feels like the priority in a lot of senses. Like, I remember she talked with Vinny at one point about how, V always seems to prioritize her family above anyone else, and it sometimes felt like she was kind of
Yeah.
pushed to the side, which was really intriguing to me. And that's kind of when she stopped considering V her best friend in a way, which is kind of sad.
Happy struggles with that too.
Yeah.
Because like he doesn't really have people who are like actually sort of this officially adopted family or whatever.
Yeah, Johanna, neither.
And so when people like Veronica or ever like really put value in family, he ends up feeling left out.
Yeah.
Which they've had a conversation where it's like they're kind of like family, but
yeah,
still not really.
V's tried to be better when it comes to Happy.
Yeah. I feel like she definitely has gotten better.
Because the biggest thing for her is balance. And it's always been hard for her to balance when she feels like there's so many people pulling for her attention at any given time.
Yeah. But that's kind of when Johanna stopped considering V her best friend, and kind of Happy kind of became, Johanna's person, like after everything with the 5150 and Johanna trying to help him, and then when he called her after he got the brain damage, and then that kind of spiraled into Johanna always has the people that she gets like very overly attached to and kind of relies on for her mental state in a way, which has always been interesting. Like she did that to V for a long while, like kind of rested her stability on V, which obviously is not healthy at all. And
no, and V was like,
yeah. And it's very interesting how that kind of progressed. Like I don't know if you know this, Fluffy, but that was the reason why Johanna kept hugging Happy in the New Year's when she was super drunk. Was because she like just cared about him so much. She just kept hugging him.
She just kept hugging him.
Yeah,
and then she hated Logan, so she tried to drown him in the pool.
She did not hate Logan. Honestly, Logan's gotten to the same point as Happy in her mind. Like Logan and Happy are the two like very important people to Johanna right now. But Logan, God, Logan and Johanna have gotten super close recently. Which, they're two sides of the same coin. They are very similar, which can be good, but also can work to their detriment if, they feed into each other too badly.
True.
But I love the dynamic. Playing these characters is all about the dynamic with others to me. Man, we are almost at 2 hours here.
Yeah, we are.
How many of your questions did we get through?
Let's see. What is your favorite RP moment so far?
Oh.
I have a few. Oh,
favorite moment.
Yeah, favorite moment.
Is it gonna be morbid to say the Vosh breakup? Because it's just one of those moments where V's biggest fear was that losing that relationship, for her to turn around and be the one to end it in the parking lot of the firehouse. And Snow just hits me with this line that V still quotes because she's mocking it. Do you have anything else you'd like to destroy?
Oh, Jesus.
That's a good line.
And V will quote that to this day, kind of mockingly. Because I just think it's such a it is a killer line.
That is killer.
And that was the only moment V felt guilt in what she did, but she knew it was the right choice.
Mm.
But that line just sticks with me. Do you have anything else you'd like to destroy?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time thinking because there's like
Yeah,
I
it
know that
is.
there's certain times where I'm like I know that I just like felt so energized after like oh man today was so good. But I like yesterday, uh, almost shooting a guy. That was great.
Yeah, I heard he called just randomly and said your mom's dead. Like,
Well, no, so I get these people every once in a while where they call and because they see my yellow page and they ask me why I'm so happy.
hmm.
Um,
No.
and just try to tear him down. Like Tony Balbani has done that before. This person did that. Um, and normally happy will just shake it off and not care, and I can keep going all day. But he was not in the mental state for that. He's like, I'm looking for my mom, and then this guy's just like, your mom's dead, which
Damn.
Fucked
that
up.
triggered him. So like Charlotte's sitting in the back seat, just like, who are you on the phone with? What's going on? Well, I'm having a breakdown. But yeah, that was really good because that was one of the few times I played
Right.
angry where I actually felt good about it.
Yeah. I still never met Angry, which I want to, and I want him to
Because I
be.
hardly ever play him.
Yeah, I want him to be angry at Johanna for what she's
Because
done.
he's the hardest one for me to play because I'm
Yeah.
not really a very angry person. Like there's stuff will annoy me, stuff will kind of, piss me off or whatever, but I'll tend to have a calm attitude for it. So someone who's just like hot-headed is pretty anti-me. Um so when Sirius kidnapped Brett Maxwell
Oh
and
yeah.
tried to kill him, that was one of the first times that I really played angry and tried to play into him, and I felt like it just didn't go well. Like I just didn't sound angry. I didn't get into the character very well, which I found embarrassing because it was also one of my first times interacting with kind of a big name a little bit. Like someone who's actually a like decent sized streamer, I guess.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of felt embarrassed by that and I've kind of gotten some ways of doing angry now that'll work. Like instead of, I don't know, just trying to be whippy and yell
Be
loudly or
whippy.
whatever. Or yeah, I mean, like the Dundee
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, I get what
attitude
you
of just
mean.
like yelling and going on and ranting or whatever. I'll just do more of a like, I'll like do a teeth clenched kind of thing like this. So it sort of sounds like I'm angry. Um, so like then I don't actually have to have that energy, but can still kind of sound that way. But yeah,
Mhm.
so like it doesn't come out much because it's hard for me to do.
And
But yeah, so that, and then there have been like funny moments, like the telling Kiki that she's the perfect person to help this lady. Um,
oh,
I can't even say it.
I think there's a clip somewhere in the recesses of B's clip channel, but
Yeah.
it was the funniest thing. I
Uh, Isn't that
also thought of another one because I'm looking at like my highlights, and there's a lot of stuff I wish I had highlighted that I didn't.
That's why I
But
highlight everything.
I mean, I have most of my VODs stored on YouTube. I'm missing quite a few because they were uploading to the wrong YouTube account,
Oh.
and they didn't fully upload because that YouTube account has a 15-minute restriction.
Oh.
But there's a highlight called The Breakdown, and it's from when Charlie Green went to purgatory.
Oh.
Oh.
And V gets back to the firehouse because I don't think I had prio still at this time, so I was on the EMS train. So I was on duty. She's at the firehouse, and she just has this absolute meltdown because of what happened. And Charlie like giving herself to Norman Bones, going to purgatory. I wish Storm Payton's perma was a highlight because that was just another moment of breaking for V because she didn't have the best relationship with Storm. She wasn't the biggest fan of Storm, but she was the responding medic.
Interesting. Yeah.
And she felt some kind of responsibility. So most of my favorite RP moments are ones where I have to tap deep into those emotions. Because
You
those
know,
moments are the most rewarding for me in a very odd way.
I agree. I think that probably my favorite RP moments are like when Happy and Veronica probably actually get like deep one-on-one, like vulnerable talks.
God, I love deep one-on-one vulnerable talks.
Like, when they actually kind of let their guard down and just talk about stuff that's really nice.
Yeah.
I really like that.
All right. Why did you choose to be a civ over a criminal?
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I was heavily inspired by Crystalist with 4T, where she said that basically she made 4T as an open book, and how she acted depended on who she interacted with.
So
for that
Happy could have been a crim?
Oh yeah, for that
Wow.
character. So basically, Happy was going to come in and sort of do whatever made him and the people around him happy. And so if he had met gang members, then he would have just jumped in and done whatever they're doing. It just so happens that he, on his first day, got brought to the farmer's market and got a job in the farmer's market, and then all of his friends were civilians. And that's the lifestyle that he became accustomed to.
Interesting. What about you, Mel?
V was supposed to be a cop.
All right.
But and that was because I used to watch Alex stream so much, who played Bob Smith.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna ask you guys how you got into NoPixel, but I should have figured you got through Alex.
I adore Alex. I've never had a bad interaction with him. You know, Rooster Teeth,
Yeah.
Alex was with a group called Cow Chop. And I was friends with their PA, and the presence Cow Chop had at RTX was insane. We would have to have multiple guardians on the show floor, like just to handle the foot traffic of people wanting to see Cow Chop. But they were always very, and Alex was always very polite and kind to all of us. So I've never had a bad interaction with him or James. In passing, because like I never actually spoke to them at RTX, but in passing, like, you know, they were good to their PA. Like a little bit of a headache because Cow Chop's chaotic energy.
Yeah.
They wanted to give butane to the fans at a panel. Anyway,
So is that how you got into RP and NoPixel?
Watching Alex's streams.
Oh.
I very vividly remember it was him, it was Kiwoo, and I was watching them filling out reports. And it was watching them do reports that made me want to do cop RP. Because I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Now I don't think I'd want to do cop RP on NoPixel just because of the stress.
Yeah.
I think I'd have fun with it, but just the stress of and pressure of it, and I'm not sure I could do it. It's why I haven't picked up my Ignite cop in a while, because there's a lot more eyes on Ignite now. And part of what drew me to Ignite is it wasn't a big server. I would have room to make mistakes.
Oh.
My character's a full officer there with only three shifts under her belt. But
What a pro.
right? I've never played a cop before, so it's like, that's another reason I haven't played her, because I'm like, she's a full officer, but I don't know what I'm doing. I know it's RP, but like, there is a certain level of anxiety that exists. It's why V was a trainee for so long. Oh, see, I had a lot of anxiety because, yes, you're talking to 30 people over radio in city, but then however many thousands of people are watching, NoPixel streamers who are cops and EMS at any given time.
Yeah.
That's where the anxiety came in. The idea of having to treat characters belonging to players that had all of these eyes on them was intimidating. My first scene as an EMS was a 10 CG. I had no idea how to turn the lights and sirens on. I didn't have keys to the ambo. And Balto,
Balto.
the reason Balto was the first person to take V out is because I have known Little Star since 2015.
What? Really?
Mhm.
Wow.
I call Little Star Bear. They will always be Bear to me.
Yeah.
Because that's what I know them as. Because Little Star also did Guardian stuff for Rooster Teeth for RTX.
Oh.
We met through Jeremy Dooley's community. So I have known Balto's player for some time.
Yeah. I've actually known him for longer than I realized, because I had only thought of him as Balto for the longest time, and then he messaged me at some point, and I was like, wait, why do we have this long Discord conversation before? And I had played a serial killer victim for him back in 2.0, and I didn't make the connection that it was the same person.
Nice.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the same person. Oh. And that definitely made him a lot less intimidating to me, because I was definitely intimidated by Balto a bit at the start.
He was so intimidating at first.
Yeah. But then we also went to the Michael Simone death scene together, and that was, oh man.
It's funny because in character, Balto still intimidates me a little bit, but I'm like, oh, see, I'm like, it's Bear. Bear has never intimidated me. Bear's nice.
Balto just has this presence.
Balto's great.
Yeah. I need to get him on here. Talk with him.
Absolutely. I think Ash would also be a good one for you to get.
Oh, yeah. There's so many people I want to talk to. But honestly, I might want to get them in groups of 2, because this has been like so good bouncing off of both of you. But then that means like half as many, segments I can make out of this.
Yeah, but it's nice because I can just kind of chill sometimes.
Yeah. I have to think on it. But yeah, I'd love to chat with him some more. Especially just knowing like, oh man, I played the serial killer victim for him at one point and never realized it.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah, how did I get in roleplay? It all started with Among Us. I watched an Among Us video, and then my entire YouTube feed became Among Us, and so then I got obsessed with it and watched OTV And then when Saikuno came to NoPixel, I
Oh.
saw some of the videos of him like interacting with Dundee and stuff, and kind of like casually watched every once in a while. And then I happened to watch a stream where he got like lured into the crypt by 4T, and like she had set up like a guy pretending to be a statue playing creepy music and stuff, and like had this whole scene set up. And it
Ooh.
was like a really cool thing where she tried to stab him. And I was like, that's so cool. I wanted to watch like how she got it all set up. So I went back and watched her VOD, and then kind of got obsessed watching her. And then through her and 4T / Mike Block kidnapping the mayor Andy Jones, started watching some Kiva, and then like watching both of them being like talking about how they like got anxiety but managed to find a place in NoPixel anyway. I was like, this sounds really cool and I want to try it. And so then I waited another like 5 months and then started playing.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
How many
I think-
times did you have to apply? Like, were you ever rejected?
4.
4?
Yep.
Wow.
I got in on my second.
I got in on my second as well.
I will say my progression to applying, I watched a lot of Kate and Aurealis,
Resting.
as well before I applied. I still had my subscriptions active to both Aurealis and Kate, because
That's
both
funny
of
with how
them.
V doesn't trust Ursula.
Yeah, V doesn't trust Ursula, but I love Ori. She is great. But both of them, like, that was the last push I needed to apply. Is watching their streams. And Kate was actually one of the first people I ran into as well. V was driving her van to the vault and saw Nancy Drew and Dick Chicklets backed up to the vault like they were about to rob it. And they go, no, we're not about to rob it. We're just joking. You can go in. And V was like, uh-huh. Okay, thank you. Someone else I encountered early on was Flop Dugong, who was EMS at the time. I think there's a lot of people in EMS now, most of EMS now, probably don't realize that Flop started as an EMS.
Yeah, I remember he did.
I don't remember it, but people have told me.
And he picked her up after she got by a murder kitty. And this is, before he got picked up by PD. And it's crazy because you think of Flop, someone like Flop now, and you can't imagine a time where he wasn't a cop.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much part of a character. And it's like, you look at people like Kiki. You can't imagine Kiki not an EMS.
Yeah.
I would like to think it's the same for V, that, like, when you think of Veronica, you can't imagine her doing something other than what she's currently doing.
Yeah.
I can.
Well,
You can.
I can
Yeah, I
imagine
can
her being
imagine her
dead.
standing at the farmer's market booth for hours on end.
Okay. True. And same with Kiki to an extent, but like in the context of where we're at with the server now, where farmers market doesn't exist, you can't really imagine some characters doing something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
EMS makes a lot of sense.
Because
EMS is just a home.
that's part of what I love about EMS, for all the faults that there are, because of how small the department is in terms of active medics. It is more like a family, and that's why sometimes things are messy.
Yeah.
But it also creates solid conflict RP at times. Sometimes it's just like, please, God, just one time, let me log on the server without being hit with, hey, can the highest ranking EMS on duty call me? Oh, hey, Veronica, I have a list for you of things that happened while you were sleeping.
Oh yeah, that's the best part. Is as soon as you show up, just be like, "Hey, I need to tell you all this stuff."
Like, that's both the best and worst part of when I clock on as V. Right now, it's good because most PD don't realize what the letters in front of our names mean.
Oh yeah, there have been a couple times where people have contacted Happy, and I've had to be like, "No, I am not the highest ranking on duty. You need to talk with Veronica."
Yeah, there was one time where I think right after I clocked on duty, Bison radioed for Veronica to
Wow.
call him. Oh my god, damn it.
Oh, it was great when I was talking with Bass, and then I saw you twat out "Hello, Los Santos," and immediately called you. That was fun.
Yeah, but we got the unlock that EMS is going to be under the commissioner's office.
Yeah,
Wait,
we
EMS is
just
gonna
don't
be
know
under
what
the
that means.
commissioners?
We still don't know what that means.
Huh. Is that why people are freaking out about the felonies on the records?
I think so.
Wow.
But also, it's something that should have happened a while ago, and like we've been telling people like one-on-one for a while now to get expunged. Ash has been told several times in character
Wait, she's not expunged?
she needs to get an expungement.
Oh
And
my
she's
gosh.
like, but the character's like, but to her credit, she has been told different things by different people. V and Archer are both on the side of, no, you gotta get that shit expunged. That's a felony. You have burglary and resisting arrest.
Ooh.
And like Riv's been like, nah, you don't need to get
Riv.
expunged until PD
Well, that's the
says
thing
something.
is like Archer has multiple times been like, you need an expungement to people, or like tried to push it, and then Riv kind of like seems like he made it backtrack. I'm not really sure what happened behind the scenes, but like Riv hasn't been enforcing it. But I think now he's actually enforcing it. Probably got direction from on high to start enforcing it.
I have no idea. I know. I always planned on V to get an expungement. It was just finding a lawyer that she liked.
I've never
Yeah.
needed one. Haha.
Well, she technically doesn't need one because it's a misdemeanor, but also she should get it off her record because even though the report is titled EMS titty touching, yeah, I need
Yeah.
Owl to send me. I have to ask Owl to send me the report because I want to read it.
Wait, why is
Harvey refuses to tell V about it because it's like one of those things where it's like, talk to your lawyer because your lawyer FOIA'd it, and I'm just like, please. Like V's just like, Harvey, please. She FOIA'd it already. You can tell me. My lawyer has it. Like, what's the difference? But that's one of the fun things too about V and Harvey's relationship. Is like, there's just things he can't tell her, and she will respect that, but she will be like, really? Really? You don't trust me? One of the things that they have is something V and Harvey call husband-wife confidentiality, which used to be boyfriend-girlfriend confidentiality, which basically means whatever they say to each other, they're not going to share it with anyone. And at least on V's end, I kind of treat it like an ocean dump. She doesn't remember. Anything they talked about, doesn't remember, unless it comes up again in conversation with him. She doesn't, that's the way I treat it, is it doesn't
Oh, you are breaking up
again unless
Mel, you are breaking
they're sitting
up real
down
bad.
and talking about it with each other again.
Maybe better?
Maybe better?
Hello?
You were breaking up real bad there.
My internet's been doing some weird things today. But what I was saying is that topic does not come back up until Harvey initiates the conversation.
Interesting.
Likewise, if V says something is in confidentiality, I don't think it comes up again until she brings it up again. Or if they have questions or something, or just want to check in. But that's something Veronica takes seriously, is when one of them says this is confidentiality, that it doesn't leave the two of them. And I think that's part of what kind of makes their relationship work so well, is they afford each other these moments where they feel safe enough to vent about something that they might not technically be able to speak about. Like V will vent to him sometimes about command things that should she be talking about? Not necessarily, but she needs to vent to somebody. And it'll be like little things like, things she just shouldn't say in front of medics. About her thoughts on some things. That way she gets it out in a constructive way.
All this
It's
spicy tea, like talking shit about other command members and stuff.
like she's just it's just really nice for her to actually be in a somewhat healthy relationship.
What a novel concept, a healthy relationship.
On my RP server?
Yeah, I don't.
Wow.
But it's just nice to have after having her be in 2 relationships on the server that weren't healthy in any capacity. You had the toxicity with Josh, and then Randy just never showed up. How do you have a relationship with someone who isn't there?
Well, they both were like that by the end.
I mean, V was around. It was just
No,
Randy wasn't.
Both like Josh and Randy were not around at the end of their respective relationships.
Yeah.
I remember Happy struggling with like both of those because V would go from like being in a relationship with someone who's never around, so basically not being in a relationship, to then being in a new relationship and like devoting all of her attention to that. He's going through that with Charlotte now a bit as well.
That's in a relationship?
Yeah.
Oh, whoops.
Some tea on that. V does not like Emerson.
Spicy.
Not at all. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Veronica is not a fan of Emerson. And has the belief that Emerson is gonna get Charlotte in deep trouble at some point.
Very spicy. What were we? Question I asked was how you got into RP. I think we covered that.
Yeah, I think we got that.
Like we've covered pretty much everything that I asked. Do you guys have any questions for me? Any dying things you want to know?
I'm probably gonna think of stuff after we end this. Is what's gonna happen.
I know I had a question earlier today.
Oh.
It was a very dumb question too. I'm disappointed that I forgot it. It's one of those like would probably show up in a EMS interview type questions.
Oh.
But I don't remember it. So
that's fine then. Yeah.
How did you get into RP?
Oh, so back in 2.0, right when, it started up, Markiplier ended up playing on the server with Stan the Waterman. And that was how I started, because I was super into the whole Markiplier fandom at that point in time. That was very much my whole thing. And then I had been interested, man, this is kind of cool. I've never heard of this before. And I found the Reddit, and one of the first posts I saw on there was a clip of Tessa and Amara breaking up, which I was like, wait, there's lesbians in this RP server? Sign me up. So I ended up starting to watch Nikita, and from that point on, I just became an avid watcher of her.
Mhm.
And eventually I had found Axel, who played Mickey Rivers, and I kind of became a friend of his, became a mod for his stream, and he was the one that really inspired me to eventually eventually take the step into getting on the server. 'Cause I never would have done it without him. My first character was literally Nikki Rivers, his niece, because I was like, I want someone there to kind of hold my hand as I go into this,
Yeah.
which never ended up happening because the first day he wasn't around, and then I got into all the serial killer shit. But, that was the whole reason why I started role playing in itself. Yeah. All goes back to Markiplier.
Mm. Nice. Man, I remember my first day, like, went to the farmer's market or whatever. But then, like, Lang Buddha and Dean showed up to harass Burger Shot people, and I was so scared. I just, like, sat on a bench and just kind of watched them and waited for them to leave because I didn't know what to do.
Oh.
It was my first day in this, my first
Yeah.
like 30 minutes in the server, and I encountered like people with one of the biggest followings. I was paralyzed. Like, I'm just gonna sit here.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I didn't have time to like not be accustomed to things when one of the first things that happened was I got serial killed.
Yeah.
I like had to go face first into everything. Which honestly was probably the best thing. But I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad. I love this community. I love everyone I've met. Even the people I've sort of lost contact with. It's been so great.
Mm-hmm.
I credit NoPixel for a lot of things. Well, we've gone 2.5 hours. I feel like that's a pretty good stopping point. What do you guys think? Got any other
Yeah, I think
things to
so.
talk about?
Seems like
I
a
mean,
good length for a podcast.
we can always save it for another time as
Yeah,
well.
we can. I'd love to have you guys back on.
Heck yeah.
I didn't actually get to show off all of my PNG tuber emotes, so we're gonna go through them now. Got the tired emote. We've got the surprised. We've got sad, and then the regular. I've got a few more coming on the way. There's going to be an angry one, and there's going to be a sleepy. No, wait, this one's the sleepy one. There's going to be tired one should be default. Wow. There's going to be the angry one, and now I'm forgetting what the other one I have is. There's going to be, what is it? I swear I know it. Not a lewd one. What the heck? Oh my gosh. It's... What are the other basic emotions people have?
Happy, sad, angry.
Angry. Serious.
That's not really emotion.
Well, then why is he part of the emotions?
Is the absence of emotion.
Who's the absence of emotion?
Serious.
Mm.
I mean,
And I just needed something that would work with the pun.
Seriously.
Yeah. Yes, seriously.
Oh, it's confused. That's the one that I was gonna have.
I made a character with 5 different pun names and then decided I didn't like pun names anymore.
5 different pun names? Wait.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Frankly,
Happy.
seriously, happily,
Oh.
sadly, angrily.
Frankly, what the fuck? How did I not realize that?
I realized that a couple months ago, and
I feel so dumb. What the?
Because I don't play it up, and
I never realized it would
is
be
kind of hidden, yeah.
happily, sadly. What the heck? What the heck? How did I not
Every once
realize
in a
that?
while, if someone throws one of those words in the right context, I'll just be kind of like, what? Huh? But I don't really play it up much.
Yeah. Does V have an origin for her name?
No, I just kind of picked one. Her middle name was her aunt's name, though, except with 2 L's instead of 1 L, but Michelle only spells it with 1 L because there is a clerical error.
Nice. I just chose Johanna because I love the Sweeney Todd musical, and one of the characters is named Johanna. And then I went to a random last name generator and got Golden. I was like, this is perfect because she's gonna have blonde hair. And that was basically the origin of it. I love when people make alliterative names, though. I want to do.
Oh,
more
I have
characters like
such a
that.
good name on one of my characters that I never play.
Oh, what is it?
Felix Fable.
Ooh, yeah. Something about alliterative names gets me. That's why my character on Ignite is Constance Caldwell.
Yeah, that character was gonna be my potential cop if I ever wanted one. He applied for DOC, never heard back, and I played him like once.
Oh. Like, there's always a possibility in the future, but managing multiple characters is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a slate of characters that I just have not played because I don't have time.
Yeah. Right now I'm trying to balance the Ignite and NoPixel. It's a little bit hard, but I'm not going to give up. Because I do like Ignite. It's been a lot of fun. Playing a bit of a looser character that is a bit more, I guess, still not crim, but like she's doing drugs, so that's kind of crim behavior.
This is a partier.
No, she's more like a overworked cocaine mom.
Oh. Okay, that works too.
Yeah. Oh, the chat said Constance Caldwell Coke Fiend Cougar. What the heck? I mean, yeah, everyone's treating her as a MILF, so nothing I can do about that now. I've made a MILF character.
Oh my god.
It wasn't my intention. Alright. Anyway. I think we've said everything. Thank you so much for being on this little talk show. Not a podcast.
Thank you for inviting me to your Definitely Not a Podcast.
Yep,
Definitely not a podcast.
Yep. I hope that you all have enjoyed, and this has been so much fun. I feel like we could talk for hours and hours more.
Oh, 100%.
But yeah, I'd love to have you guys back on at some point, maybe with other people. There's so many people I want to talk to. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you for enjoying the stream, and I will see you all later for another Snug Bug Club.